I'm going to give you a quick tour of the gardens here so they kind of have an idea what's going on. The hedges here, if you'll notice, they have a taper on both sides. That actually allows the hedge to get more light down at the bottom. When people do real straight edges, what happens is the top then blocks the light at the bottom for much of the day, and you'll get a real loose kind of look at the bottom of the hedge. Now, as we go through this, these are sometimes called a Christmas agave, January agave. They bloom in the winter. The roses will bloom all the time as long as you go through and just prune off the buds like this. These are the old flowers, and they will create fruit that look like this. And if you prune those off, then it will start blooming again. And it needs a little bit of fertilizer once in a while. Now, the front here, there is jasmine right along here. There's some jasmine at the other posts, a newer plant way at the bottom here that's really new because the old one died. But the whole area here is all the bougainvillea. Now, the bougainvillea is a bit of a challenge because it wants to send up a lot of shoots. And if you look at the shoots here, let me show you something. Here's some shoots that are coming out right here. And when they're young and green like this, you can actually just go in and pop them off. That's where the name the green thumb came from, because when you do that, you get kind of a green thumb. So that's an easy way of minimizing the maintenance, and you don't have to deal with this later with the big pruning clippers or something like that. Also, one thing that happens is that every once in a while, we get a raccoon or a possum that likes to go up under the bougainvillea up here, and the only way to get rid of them is to actually prune this away. We haven't found them to be much. They're kind of fun, cute, and they don't really bother you much, although they did tend to make our dogs bark because they'd hear them once in a while. So the pots just need to be regularly watered, not too often. As far as watering goes, the pots generally about once a week. Overall, the watering is set up to do about once a week for a longer time. A lot of people water too often. And if you're after a drought-tolerant garden, you need to water less frequently, but for longer, so the water goes down into the soil. And once the water gets down into the soil, it encourages the roots to go down too. People who water a short time for many times during the week, it gets very shallow water, and the plants have their roots very shallowly, so that if you have a drought, they die. They don't do very well. So the plants over here too, there is a soaker hose. You can see part of it down here. You can find the end over here, and that's for the roses to keep the water off of the leaves. And if you do them once a week or so, it depends on the time of year. I mean, all of this is dependent on the time of year. In the winter, you want to turn off the sprinklers because that's just going to be too much for the drought tolerant plants. They don't like that. The Sansevieria are very tough plants. These are one type of Sansevieria, another one over here. And the going into the garden area itself, we have the native plants. This is a bush poppy, and then there's some of the California fuchsia. And the California fuchsia, you can see the really brightly colored one over there. That's really nice, and that will bloom for quite a while, but it really dies back later. That's okay, just cut off all the junk and then it'll start over again. There are a variety of plants here. There's a deer grass. This is sometimes called a San Diego sunflower. Very nice for native bees. It's also a San Diego viguera. And then there's some Jimson weed back there. It's not in bloom right now. There are some seed pods. Comes up every year. This is a buckwheat, which we talked about before. Going down here, more of the same kinds of things here. In the spring, you'll get a lot of California poppies coming in here, and this is the Palo Verde, beautiful plant in the spring, just gets lots of flowers. And then this is one of my favorites. This is a manzanita, and it's one of the few manzanitas that will grow in a clay soil, which is what is here. And this actually, these are flower buds that will come out in the winter, and very, very pretty. This actually down here is a little patch of California poppies starting to come up, and they will sometimes come up early. Variety. This is a monkey flower, and this one has actually been doing fairly well for the clay soils. It tends not to like the clay soils as much. This is a Cleveland sage, I believe. This is the sage flowers. This in the spring is more, it gets more of these flowers. This is another sage. This is, I think, from Texas. It's not a native to here. The big plant here, is a Tacoma. Somebody's got a golden trumpet tree. It is a one that the hummingbirds love, absolutely love it. And it does tend to sprout a lot. You can see all the sprouts down at the base, and it's worth going in and just trimming them out regularly. Otherwise, it gets to be just too full. There's a evergreen viburnum that's not native, although this over here is an evergreen viburnum that is native. Then there's a variety of things here. The plant back here, Texas sage, which is actually not a true sage, is relatively new, so it's going to need some. Make sure you get the water. The grape, I love this grape, absolutely love it. It's a little bit big for this area, so I kind of have to regularly trim it back, but it's beautiful in the fall. It has wild grapes, so that's kind of fun. These are just some succulents that do pretty well without a lot of water. And this I think is called partridge feather, another nice little plant. Some lavender, some more sansevieria. This is the Texas, it might be called Mexican poppy, but it's in Texas, and it's a biennial, but it constantly seeds itself, so you get lots of them going on. And then in this area, we got a variety of things. These plants are mostly pretty drought tolerant. They don't need a lot of water, and overwatering the pots will be a little bit too much. Now, the lower area can use a little bit more water. And this whole area has been difficult to water just plain. I'll explain that in a second. But this is a beautiful, I think it's a yucca, but it's a really pretty one. This is a new bougainvillea, and it's going to need water, or else it's going to have trouble. And lots of interesting things around here. And there's I'm starting to lose. I've been so busy lately. I'm losing my mind here. I should know this one. Maybe it'll come to me. That's a rock rose. This is it's a citrus. It's a key lime. And then, of course, this is that cherry that I was telling you about before. It's a really great tree. And there's some drought tolerant things around the edges. Some nice little milkweed down here. I always love the little milkweed. And this big plant, I actually don't know what it is. I got it at a garden, or not at a garden, at a local farmer's market, and it just looked really cool, so I got it. And that's, by the way, if you're not familiar with the farmer's market here in Torrance, check it out. It's a really, really good one. It's over in Wilson Park. And this, I was going to say something again about the key lime. This thing wants to grow like crazy, which puts it out of reach. So it's like you kind of have to prune it back. I was really tempted to just get rid of it because it does do that, but my wife really likes the key lime, and you see there's a lot of them, and it will keep producing. Even if you keep pruning it back, it produces really well. So that kind of gives you a rough idea of the garden quickly, and hope you have fun with it.